A bit of warning to you guys: if you are new to chess, if you're a beginner, or or you have never heard the name Mikhail Tal before, and this is the first time you're watching his game, you better grab a seat because this is gonna be a brilliant game, and you will be stunned with the moves that Tal played. This was a simply spectacular game, even by the standards of Tal. So Tal playing against his trainer Alexander Koblents in 1961, and the kind of if you want to know the kind of player Tal was, I think you can just read his quotes. I've given one up over there. If you wait for luck to turn up, life becomes very boring, and that just shows Tal's personality in perfectly, because that's exactly what he did. He never waited for luck to turn up. He always went forward, sacrificed the pieces, complicated the matters, and won some simply brilliant games. So let's have a look at this game. This was played between Tal playing white against his trainer Koblents. So Tal kicked off with e4, c5 the Sicilian. We have knight f3, d6, d4. This is the open Sicilian. Takes, knight f6, attacks the pawn in the center, knight c3 defends it. Now we have a6. This is the knight of defense, and we Tal plays the bishop to g5. This was the main line. Even then, even now, it's quite popular, probably one of the main lines. So e6 played. Nowadays, there are a lot. I mean, there are tons of ways you can play. E6 is obviously a very respectable way of playing. Knight b to d7 is kind of trendy. So let's have a look at this. Now e6 is played. Basically, black wants to control the center and doesn't want to give white the chance to occupy it with the knight, or just trying to control the center, develop the pieces. And after castling, black will think whether he wants to play for d5 or e5. He's free to do that. It's a more fluid pawn structure, and that's why more complicated. This is exactly the type of position which Tal prefers. So f4. One of the ideas of this move is at some point you would like to go for e5. Also f5 depends on the position, depends on what black does. You would like to go for the ideal break. So bishop to e7 played. Now we have queen to f3, an excellent move. Now queen to c7. We have long castles, so white's plan is ready. He's going to play on the king side, whereas black is going to play on the queen side. Black's counterplay will be on the queen side, and white's counterplay will be on the king side. So this is a very interesting strategy, opposing strategy, and it's like a race. It's a deadly race. The first one is generally the victor. The first one to get towards the king is the winner. So knight b to e7, we have bishop to e2, connecting the rooks, and Tal has basically, after connecting the rooks, completed his development, and he's ready to go for the offensive now. So h6, black has not yet castled, and he's asking question to white's bishop. What do you want to do? Do you want to really capture? Do you want to go back? It's an acceptable move for black, nothing wrong. So white just says, all right, I'm going to keep my bishop on the board because bishops are really good attacking pieces, and once the game opens up, bishops can be really helpful. So black says, all right, I'm going to simply go ahead and play b5, and this is where Tal started to play brilliant chess. What has happened with this move? What was the weakness of the last move? The diagonal has been opened up, and Tal plays e5, basically attacking the knight. At the same time, Tal also attacks the rook on a8. Koblents thinks, alright, that's not a problem. I'm going to play bishop to b7, and now I'm rather attacking your queen. You have to move your queen. Tal says, not really, I am Mikhail Tal. I don't move my queen. If you attack my pieces, I attack yours. So Tal takes the knight, sacrificing the entire queen. And this is where the brilliance starts. This is simply brilliant. So first we take a knight. The threat is, of course, to take here or here and win even more material. So Koblents takes the queen. Now we have bishop takes. There are two attacks. Basically, the bishop is attacked, but more importantly, the rook on a8 is under attack, and that has to be protected. So black says, okay, I'll play d5. Now there is no longer any attack on the rook over here, so my rook is safe. Now white has few options. He can take over here, in which case black will simply move the rook, and the attack has been parried away. Basically, black will be able to defend. White's attack has stopped. Tal doesn't want that. Tal wants a continuous attack, continuous initiative. Well, what happens if he takes over here? Even in that condition, Tal's attack would very much peter out to a. Basically, he won't get any more initiative. His attack would stop over there, and it will in fact be black who would play simple moves like rook c8 and b4, trying to get towards this guy. That in that case, black will generate a lot of counterplay and will get some excellent chances, and Tal's attack will just be parried away. So Tal decided, I'm not gonna go for material, rather I want to make the position more complicated. I'm gonna go for the initiative. So knight takes e6. Already a queen down. Tal sacrifices a knight right in the center of the board. This is simply brilliant. So queen is threatened. This guy is threatened. The bishop is threatened. This is very common in Tal's game. Always there are tons of pieces hanging everywhere, here and there. So this is taken. Black takes the knight and challenges white to show me what you've got. Tal says, here we go. Bishop to h5. Now, these are deadly raging bishops. So basically, oh, pardon me for that. Bishop doesn't go like that. There we go. So basically, if you put your king to f8, I'm going to take here with a check, and that pawn will be protected from the bishop. And if you go to this side of the board, then I'm again going to capture here, capture the bishop. That will again come with a check. So Koblents played g6. Tal took that pawn, again continuing the threat. Now black plays king to f8. What are you going to play in this position? Tal played pawn takes bishop. That's a check. Now the king has to move. Well, the bishop is adequately protecting the bishop pawn, and you can't really touch that pawn. So the king moves to g7, attacking Tal's bishop. If you have this position, what would you do here? So just go ahead, pause the video, and try to think what you would do here as white. Now a normal player like us would have, any of us would have just thought of moving the bishop, because I don't really see any other move that is superior, that can be superior to this, but not Tal. Tal here went ahead and played bishop to g3. This is simply brilliant. It's basically setting up a trap. You might think, well, the bishop is hanging, can't I take it? Not really, because if you take the bishop, then we have f5. That's a check. That's a discovered check. The king is in check. The king has to move, and then I'll take your queen on c7. That is the trap that Tal has set up. So black obviously didn't fall for the trap. He was a very strong player. He was Tal's trainer, of course, Koblents. So he didn't fall the trap. He played knight to f6, ignoring the bishop, and again asking the question to black. I'm going to simply move my queen next move, probably, and then I'll be threatening to capture over here. Still two of your pieces are hanging. What is white going to do here? White says, I don't really care about my bishop. I'm going to continue with my bringing more attacking piece in the game. So the rook on h1 was not doing anything. You bring him in the game, and this is simply brilliant. If you compare white's rook, obviously white doesn't have a queen, but if you compare white's pieces, white's rooks with black's rook, you will understand the massive difference in between both of them. So can we still take the bishop? Obviously not, because f5 comes again with a check, and you will pick up the queen, so it's still not capturable. So Koblents continues with b4, attacking the knight, and now basically Tal's two of Tal's pieces are attacked, three actually, the pawn, the bishop, and the knight. In this position, any of us would try to think of a defensive move, try to move the knight, try to move the bishop, do something, save some of the piece, but not Tal. Tal just ignores all of the threats, and he continues with rook takes e6. He's daring Koblents to capture the knight. Obviously, the bishop is still not capturable because of the threat of f5 and then capturing the queen. So the bishop is kind of poisoned in a way. So Koblents says, all right, I can take the knight. I'm going to dare you. I'm going to capture the knight and show me what you've got. Now, Tal plays f5, not fearing capture over here. This capture, we can simply dodge it with king to b1, and we are still doing fine. We'll be able to defend. So f5 played. After f5, basically the bishop gets defense. The bishop is now protected. Also, the white bishop is attacking the queen. So queen now moves, and this is what players like us do. You know, if you attack my queen, I'm gonna move it, but not Tal. Like when Tal's queen was attacked, he didn't move it. He just paused. He just paused over there. He thought very calmly, and he came up with something brilliant. But generally, we play very reactive chess. If someone attacks our piece, we just defend it, but not Tal. All right. So there is a threat of checkmate over here. Queen takes b2, threatens checkmate. So Tal simply plays b3, parrying the threat. Now no longer checkmate happens. So now there is queen to d7 played. What should white play here? By the way, guys, you might ask, why not queen to b4? Now this looks like a reasonable move. Black would very much like to go here and try to give a checkmate over here. But there is a big problem with this move. So I'd like you to pause the video and try to guess what's the problem with this move. You can always guess it. And write in the comments. I want to see if you are good at defense. Well, attacking is good, but you also have to be good at defense. So that I'll leave to you. But in the game, Tal obviously played b3 and Koblents played queen to d7, attacking the rook and putting some pressure on the white pieces. Now Tal continues with bishop to e5, putting extreme pressure on the knight. Knight is basically undefendable. If you go to rook f8, I'm going to take that with my pawn. I'm going to win even more material. That would be excellent for me. So Koblenz says, all right, your pieces are simply wonderful and they are even stronger. There are four of your pieces are even stronger than my queen. They have more influence on the board rather than my queen, and my knight is going to drop off. I have to do something immediately. So I'm going to pull the brakes. I'm going to take your rook. I'm going to give you some material back, and let's see if I can defend. If I can defend this. Tal says, all right, I got the queen back. Koblenz captures the bishop. Now rook to f1, putting pressure on the knight. Again, it cannot be defended by any of the rook going to f8 because then I'll simply take that with my pawn and you will lose material. So you have to move your knight. Knight goes back to f7 and now we can take this guy. So Tal takes the bishop and now Tal takes the rook and now rook takes bishop and here comes an excellent final move from Tal. Tal plays rook to f8. This is an excellent move. Well, if you take with the knight, then I don't have to capture your knight. In fact, I can push forward and I can ignore your knight and I can make a queen and this is still winning. That will be a check and I'll be threatening to go e7, promoting yet another queen. Alright, that will be completely winning. And in the game, he took with the rook, but now you just take it, make a queen, he takes it, and now you attack the knight with e7. And you realize there is no way to save the knight. Otherwise, there can be a queen on a e8, and if you try to protect it, then I can simply take your knight. I'm gonna win even more material. And after king takes, basically after king to d1, it was in this position that Koblenz resigned after the move king to d1. This is a completely lost endgame. Tal's plan is very simple. He's got 2 against 1 pawn majority on the queen side, on the king side, so he can easily make a passed pawn out over here. And on the other hand, he can easily go and hunt these pawns one by one and basically all of these black pawns will drop off. We're gonna have pass pawns here, we're gonna have pass pawns here, and black king won't be able to handle pass pawns on both the sides, and basically it's a very easy win for white. So this was simply a phenomenal game. And going back to this point, when Tal's queen was under attack over here, this was simply phenomenal. Bishop to b7, any of us would have simply thought of moving the queen, but not Tal. He calculated this in extreme depth. He must have calculated. He's not a beginner to just sacrifice the queen or to gamble the queen. He has to calculate it, and he did calculate. That just shows the kind of calculation this guy is capable of. This was simply phenomenal. And he not only sacrificed his queen and his knight again, he continued the attack all the way till black king was checkmated, and that was brilliant. So that was a brilliant game by Mikhail Tal, one of his spectacular victories against his trainer Alexander Koblents. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching and do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like the videos, and until next time.